Hello and welcome to the Weekly Outlook at XM.com. I'm Maria Pashrutis, and joining me is Senior Investment Analyst Rafi Boyadjian. We'll be reviewing the week ahead. So Rafi, let's begin with the Reserve Bank of Australia. Are policymakers likely to add more stimulus when they meet on Tuesday? And if they do, what reaction might we see in the Australian dollar?
Well, Maria, there's been some speculation over the past week that the RBA might actually announce something on Tuesday. We did have that surprise speech by Deputy Governor Guy Debelle recently, where he surprised markets by hinting at possible further monetary easing at some point in the near future. Up until his remarks, markets had pretty much ruled out the prospect of further RBA easing this year. And so his remarks really did send bond yields, short-dated bond yields, much lower. Although looking at interest rate futures, they're not actually, investors aren't fully convinced that we're going to get a rate cut as early as the October meeting. And another reason why October might actually not be the date for the RBA's next move is because we're also going to have the government budget by the Australian government on Tuesday as well. So it's unlikely they will want to make such an announcement the same day as the budget. And also the fact that they're probably going to want to see what's going to be in the budget, whether or not it's going to include any new fiscal measures to support the economy, get through the crisis. So the RBA might hint at further easing on Tuesday, but most likely, if they are planning on acting very soon, that's probably going to be at the November or December meetings. And it's worth mentioning, of course, that in Victoria the state is emerging from a second lockdown, and that's expected to have hit the recovery in August. So that's probably one of the reasons why the RBA is now a little bit more cautious than it used to be about the recovery prospects. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what they're going to say about the economy, even if they don't announce anything yet.
Okay, moving over to Europe now. We'll get the European Central Bank's meeting minutes from the September gathering on Thursday. Recent reports suggest there are rising tensions at the decision-making table. What might that mean for the euro?
So we are seeing, we've had several reports suggesting that the hawks within the ECB are becoming, their voices are becoming louder. So apparently Germany isn't happy about the amount of Italian government bonds the ECB is buying as part of its pandemic emergency purchase program, and also we're also seeing signs that the hawks actually want an early exit from the PEP, or there's also question marks whether or not the ECB will use the full amount allocated to the PEP program. So there is growing unease within the hawks of that huge stimulus that they announced regarding the pandemic emergency program. So that actually is a big problem because especially the timing, because we are seeing some data point to slowing of the recovery, and not to mention, of course, the fact that there's a risk of deflation now within the Eurozone, although the ECB isn't too concerned about that just yet. It's something that might become a bigger problem going forward. So if we see from the minutes that those reports of a split are actually true, then that could possibly be negative for the euro, because obviously if there's not going to be any additional support for the economy, then that would also be bad for the euro. But if it's more of a case of they are considering more stimulus, but maybe not just yet, more of a case of stimulus coming later rather than sooner, that could possibly be positive for the single currency.
Right. Turning to the UK, there are fears the recovery could falter now that a third of the population is under some form of regional lockdown. We'll get the monthly print on GDP on Friday. Could the data add to worries about the recovery?
So although we're seeing tighter restrictions in the UK, and that's bound to impact growth, that probably didn't have a huge impact back in August when the economy was boosted from that government scheme which encouraged people to go out to eat. So the August data will probably be quite strong, and we may even see it giving the pound a little bit of a lift, although we do have increased Brexit tensions lately. Currently, negotiators are in their final round before the October 15 deadline, and there's still no significant progress there. On top of that, the EU has said it's going to take legal action against the UK government for going ahead with that internal market bill, which allows the UK to breach the withdrawal agreement. So although we had seen a little bit of a positivity regarding the Brexit talks, now we've got some increased uncertainty there. And we do know now, though, that Boris Johnson will hold a call with EU Commission President to try and kickstart those talks. But of course, the way it's looking at the moment, the talks will end up going into the 11th hour. So until then, we may yet get a few big negative headlines, and so that could potentially catapult the pound of the coming week.
And finally, over in the US, we'll get the minutes of the September 15th to 16th meeting on Wednesday. Do you think we'll get any fresh clues about the Fed's next move, even though we've already heard from most policymakers since the last meeting?
Yeah, so we've definitely heard quite a lot from the Fed lately. We've heard from most committee members over the past couple of weeks, including Fed Chief Jerome Powell. He of course had that 3-day testimony before Congress. So we pretty much know where they stand on the economy, on the stimulus and so on. But they didn't really tell us anything about what they're thinking about any further measures to help the economy. And that's probably because that was probably the deliberate move on the part of the Fed to try and pile pressure on Congress to increase the urgency to approve a new fiscal stimulus package. Now, we are seeing some progress being made there in terms of Republicans and Democrats bridging the gap in terms of the differences on a new virus relief bill, but we still don't know whether or not that's going to go ahead, and the Fed will probably not decide on whether or not or how much of an extra stimulus they're going to provide until they know whether or not there's going to be a fiscal stimulus. And then on top of that, we have the election uncertainty. So we might get some new clues from the Fed's minutes, potentially, in terms of some hints as to what they're thinking about the next policy response. But on the whole, the dollar will probably stay on the front foot, benefiting from safe haven demand generated by all of that uncertainty.
Rafi, thanks so much. And thanks for joining us at XM.com.